Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you are listening to
My Nerd World.
Welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice. Glad you are with another Depeche Mode, the podcast episode this week. As always, if you want to email, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Also, the Jon Justice, Jon, @gmail.com works as well. I should probably just stick with one, and I just did my Star Wars podcast, and so I kept doing TalkShowNerd. I don't know why that one stuck in my head today. So, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com or the Jon, Jon, the Jon Justice @gmail.com. Either way, thank you so much for checking out a podcast that is devoted to the greatest band on the face of the planet. It's subjective, but I don't care. They are. In terms of news, there's not a lot of news this week, although I did find an interesting review for one of the tech shows that I wanted to share with you before we dive into your listener feedback this week. So, of course, the band's tour continues. Having left Mexico, back here for another leg in the United States. Set list has not changed much to the disappointment of those that have seen the shows already. It's clear that the band is happy with the current set list, minus a few changes every night, or minus a few changes on select nights when it comes to My Favorite Stranger, Speak to Me, Martin Gore's solo. He did bring out Strangelove Acoustic again recently, which is a song, in my opinion, that is much, much better served being fully produced live than the version that they are doing. That being said, our band is still out touring, and you can't complain about that. Before I get into this article really quick, and we're going to talk about Depeche Mode says the Houston crowd is so much better than Dallas during the concert sing-along. Can I take just a moment? I can. It's my podcast. I'm going to. But I want to take just a moment and talk about the ever-changing stage presence of Dave Gahan. I would love to pick the man's brain on how much of a conscious decision it is for him to change his style. When I've examined Dave's live performances in the past, I've always hearkened it more to an evolution than really dramatic changes. And you go back and you watch 101 and you lean into the World Violation Tour, and then the biggest change, which really came about during Songs of Faith and Devotion. And it's interesting because after Songs of Faith and Devotion, the drug problems, Dave kind of reverted back a little bit to a calmer combination, in my opinion, of how he was on stage during the Music for the Masses years. And I won't go back any farther than that, because certainly his stage presence was much different even going back further. It morphed from the Broken Frame days, World We Live in live in Hamburg, and leading up to kind of what we got with Black Celebration. And, it all kind of changed as he got older and matured. But after Songs of Faith and Devotion, he kind of reverted back to this weird, calmer version of the Dave that we had gotten used to between Music for the Masses and Violator, cutting his hair short again, especially during the singles tour. That's kind of where I'm landing on this. Returning back to a similar style that he had before until you get further into the catalog post the Alan Wilder years. And really, you go back and watch, and he kind of remained consistent for a little while and then really started to change as you get into Delta Machine. And then whatever it was that he was doing during the Spirit Tour. That was probably my least favorite Dave Gahan live version of Dave Gahan that we've seen. What I've seen so far of the Memento Mori tour has also been a kind of a dramatic change. His wardrobe, not stripping down shirtless anymore. He's taken on, the only way that I can describe it, I'm just looking at some photos right now, which made me think of it, is almost this elder statesman, Victorian vampire vibe. His stage presence in and of itself, he stripped away some of, and again, this is from what I've seen so far. All right, I've watched quite a few of the clips online of the live tour. It seems like he stripped away some of the smarminess that he was carrying around with him during the Spirit tour that really was kind of off-putting to me, that bizarro sort of sleazy swagger. And he's leaned into more of this mature, almost Bowie-esque persona. And I guess that's the only thing only way that I can describe it. He still has some of the moves that he's always typically done, but this is a new, older, almost gothic character. And there we go. That's what I wanted to land on. The way that he's dressing now is probably the most gothic that I've ever seen Dave. So I'm curious to get your thoughts, especially those that have been to a few of the shows, how you would describe his stage presence currently. And getting back to my original question, I do wonder whether or not this was a hugely conscious decision on his part, or if this is just something that happens naturally. His decision to wear these types of clothes has brought out this persona. Because we kind of went from the vest, and he was just wearing the vest and still stripping down during the Spirit tour, and now it seems like he's staying, he's keeping his shirts on this time around, and he's got this very Victorian Gothic vibe to him. So let me get into this article, and I'm just laughing because I'm looking at the pictures and describing what I'm seeing, and the man is fascinating to me. So the article starts off talking about the show and just what a great performance it was and what a gift it was for Houston. And then it says this, but Dave Gahan had one more gift for Houston. He said, after leading a chant of OOs at the end of Just Can't Get Enough, that was so much better than Dallas. He repeated it as the crowd roared. This comes from the Houston Chronicle. Better than Dallas at anything is a lifelong pledge for those native to Houston. Gahan is a sprightly frontman, bending and spinning across the stage like a long-legged spider. He looked genuinely happy to be on stage, taking in the crowd's energy. He still bellows with conviction, and it made for some gorgeous moments. The band was swathed in shadows and light at the show's open. A giant M loomed over the stage, a nod to the Memento Mori album. The set list included 5 of the newer songs, including the opener, My Cosmos Is Mine, the single Ghosts Again, and the hymn Like My Favorite Stranger. They worked well against the familiar hits. Still, every time the band launched into a classic, there was a noticeable rumble throughout the crowd of black t-shirts and eyeliner. Walking in My Shoes boasted a looser arrangement than the original. I Feel You, Personal Jesus, still Shake the Ground. Stripped was another highlight, still more seductive than any of today's more explicit pop teasers. The ever-stoic Martin Gore crooned impressively on Question of Lust and Soul with Me, and even cracked a smile as the crowd cheered. He joined Gahan on stage at the end of the runway to harmonize Waiting for the Night, a song from 1990's Violator. Their voices melded nicely, to be sure, but more than that made the song soar. It was a sharing of spirits and energies with each other and the crowd that so clearly adores them. And then I went and gave the entire set list. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought it was a nice little nugget, and we hadn't really gotten into any of the, at least not for a while, we hadn't gotten into any of the official reviews of the shows, and I'll be honest with you, I'm ticking down to a month here very soon to finally see this show live in Denver, and I honestly simply cannot wait. Still trying to figure out what my own personal wardrobe is going to be. I don't think I make enough to style myself in the Gothic Victorian that I'm calling Dave Gahan wearing right now, but I'll figure something out. The real question is whether or not I paint my nails black when I head to Denver. I'll have to wait and see. I don't know if I can still pull that off or not. All right, let's get to your listener feedback this week. As always, if you want to email, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, thejonjustice@gmail.com. Let's run through some of your thoughts from over the past week. Tool46and2 writes, man, I really enjoyed this episode. Love the conversation. Headed over to the album review. Wanted to wait for a time I can absorb it, enjoy my coffee, and take in the rankings and reviews. And thank you to everybody who wrote in. You are all friends of the show, and I greatly appreciate your feedback. Adam Barker writes, regarding album rankings, it changes, but I do know that for me, Violator is number 1, Memento Mori number 2 for me. It's such a good album. It really, I've talked about it a ton on this show, but it really, really is just a fantastic, fantastic album. Another band that I'm really into at the moment is Gunship. They're the leaders of the synthwave movement, if you're not familiar with it, that leans heavily into a lot of 80s vibes. I was talking with a friend of the show, Matt, about this, and had shared with him some songs from the album, and I equated it to kind of a cross between Nine Inch Nails and the Human League, but really it's Nine Inch Nails meets the Human League meets Miami Vice. And I've been listening to this record since it came out last Friday, almost nonstop. It's the first record since the release of Memento Mori that has really gained this much attention from me. But then returning to Memento Mori and juxtaposing the two albums, because the Gunship album is really, really electronic heavy. And again, it's got some really heavy 80s vibes, but also some tracks that remind me of some of the more techno versions of Jesus Jones from their third album that included The Devil You Know. There's some tracks on there, a little bit like Oh Well, reminded me a bit of that. But going back and listening to Memento Mori after listening to this album, which has some really just great choruses on it, it made me once again appreciate the depth of Memento Mori. And what a triumph that album is in terms of its substance. All right, Kev F writes, listened to your podcast yesterday. Can't wait to hear yours and others' views, hopefully on my list, which I'm going to get into a little bit here. I'm a bit nervous, really, LOL. Thanks for reading it. He says, if okay, I will do a list on other bands and albums. Sure, absolutely. Send me whatever you want, Kev F. I appreciate it. And I'm going to share your thoughts on all the albums here in just a moment. Speaking of which, DB_74 writes, the Kev F spotlight on DM's album sounds interesting. Look forward to hearing it next week on my Nerd World. Christian writes, OMG Europe, talking about Europe last week and the final countdown. My favorite band before I knew Depeche. Hey, I was 12 back then. Tip, search YouTube for Depeche Mode, the final countdown. Will do. Thanks for another great show and greetings from good old Europe, not the band, Christian. Thank you very much, Christian. I appreciate that. Sebastian writes, I listen to your DM podcast every week from Argentina. I enjoyed your book that I read via Kindle. Thank you very much. And I came across another book on Amazon about Depeche Mode called Words of the Universe by Yvonne Smart, which I also really enjoyed. Cheers from Buenos Aires. Sebastian. Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out. I have not heard of Words of the Universe by Yvonne Smart, but I will definitely go and look at it. And again, thank you for checking out my my science fiction series. I appreciate that. Adam Barker writes, my favorite Stranger Vinegar Hills session is a better video than the official video. I love the song. So right after I put out the episode last week, the official account went and dropped the Vinegar Hills session for my favorite Stranger, and I was frustrated. Yeah, and I actually like the Vinegar Hills session version just slightly better than the album version. I would never substitute the Vinegar Hill version for the album version, but there's something about that version that is really, really good. And I do also agree that the video that goes along with it is better than the actual video by Anton. But it's all subjective, right? Rumalo M writes, for me, Songs of Faith and Devotion, number 1. Violator, number 2. Black Celebration, number 3. DJ Kenny writes, I heard no set changes. I went all the way to Sacramento, seeing them in November. Bummed they aren't changing it up. Yeah, you know what? Me too, but I can't really say anything because I haven't seen the show yet at all. So the set list that I see is going to be original for me. But yeah, I really am surprised. But it must just be because they've become so accustomed to doing this particular set list, and it just must flow really well for the crowd that they decided they didn't want to make any major changes. So. I got a couple of emails this week from Jason. I'm going to hold off on one longer email that Jason wrote this week talking about the different bands that he enjoys. I'm going to save that for an episode where we get further into other bands that we as Depeche Mode fans enjoy. I did want to share this one, though, and I wanted to comment on it. Second, he writes this. I'm a little puzzled what DM are classifying as singles these days. It's not too often I go to the archives section on the official DM website, but I noticed Speak to Me is classed as the third single for the album. I thought this might be because it was an official remix that was released, but if that's the case, why is the My Cosmos Is Mine Anna remix not listed, which was released before Speak and Spell? I'm assuming My Favorite Stranger isn't listed yet, either because they haven't got around to it or not a single. And I was under the impression, at least I had thought that I had read, that we would be getting a single release with remixes for My Favorite Stranger, but that hasn't taken place yet. I'm also very curious as to how they are classifying and why they are classifying things the way that they are these days. It is very different when we don't have the physical releases like what we've had in the past, and the focus on singles that we've had in the past is just a different world in terms of the way that fans go and consume music and how everything's available on streaming. I went into the archives link and I was surprised because I didn't even realize this, and maybe it just blew past me, but back in 2011 with the remixes package, they had the Vince Clarke remix of Behind the Wheel, which is only available as a promo, listed as a single release. And I saw it and I was like, wait, what? I remember the song, but I just didn't realize that they also had the Personal Jesus 2011 remix there as well. And I do remember that specifically, but the Vince Clarke Behind the Wheel one, I do not recall that one having been released as a single. So that one took me by surprise. So yeah, that's another, unanswerable question at the moment that I would be very curious to get an answer to, as to, there has to be a very specific reason why they are classified as singles. But we, got the release of, say, as Jason mentioned, My Cosmos Is Mine and remix for that, and it's not listed as one. So that is indeed very peculiar. All right, now let's get into the fan spotlight this week. As I mentioned, I saved this one for this week. This comes from Kev F. Been listening to your show for years on your podcast. For me, DM are one of the best, also my fave of all time. So we have a bit in common. I'm from England, and I think I'm misreading this here. I see what I did wrong here. Sorry. DM's his favorite group, and his favorite film of all time is The Empire Strikes Back. So we do have a bit in common. I'm from England, the UK. One night I started my own list on Depeche Mode. Hope you have time to read it. As you can see, I did it in release order. So what I'm going to do here is I'll give you the quick ranking, and then he shares thoughts on every album. So I'm going to share with you what Kev F had to write. So starting off with Speak and Spell, 13 out of 14. 2 best songs, Puppets and Big Muff. Best remix, New Life remix. Worst song, What's Your Name? Best B-side, Shout. Can't argue with that. My thoughts? Vince's album, really. Not really a DM album yet. Not really a DM album. Next, we get into A Broken Frame, 12 out of 14. 2 best songs for Kev F. Leave in Silence and Monument. Best remix, Oberkorn, It's a Small Town. Development mix. I love that song, too. Worst song, A Photograph of You. Sacrilege. I like A Photograph of You. It's goofy, but I like A Photograph of You. Not What's Your Name, huh? Oh, I'm sorry. That was off of Speak and Spell. My bad. I do like A Photograph of You, though. B-side, Oberkorn, It's a Small Town. My thoughts? Martin's time, but still a little bit trying to be like Vince with songs like Meaning of Love and A Photograph of You. These are some of the worst DM songs ever, I think. Don't be like Vince Martin, LOL. Construction Time Again. Album rank 7 out of 14. 2 best songs, 2 Minute Warning, and Then. Best remix, Love in Itself, 4. Worst song, More Than a Party. Oh, I love More Than a Party. Best B-side, Great Outdoors. Agree as well. This is more like it. Mr. Goran Allen starts his sounds on his first album, and here we go. I still don't get why Martin did not Get the Balance Right. What a song should have been on the album. Also, why is this album never higher up on the fans' list? Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a transition. I understand what you're saying, but I think this was the band still getting its footing. So, number 9 on his list out of 14... Some Great Reward. 2 best songs, Something to Do, Blasphemous Rumors. Best remix, The Slick Mix of In Your Memory. Worst song, Stories of Old. Sacrilege again! I love Stories of Old. I still like this, but I've always disliked the chorus when Dave sings Love. Why does he sing it like that? Best B-side, In Your Memory. Can't argue with that. Stories of Old. I love Stories of Old. I love the bit on the documentary for Sounds of the Universe where Dave's got the leather jacket on and he pulls out the song list and he's like, oh, look at this. How about Stories of Old? How does that fit you? I mean, he's got such a goofy sense of humor. It always makes me laugh. To me, it's like they wanted to get more noticed for Some Great Reward. With People Are People and even Master and Servant. Black Celebration, album ranked 4 out of 14. Black Celebration and Strip, 2 best songs, best remix, Breathing in Fumes. Worst song, Here Is a House. Oh my gosh! Sacrilege indeed! Kev F. What has happened? And you like The Empire Strikes Back? Oh my goodness. It's one of my favorite songs ever. Best B-side, Christmas Island Extended. My thoughts. Stripped is there. Best song ever, I think. For me, the best electronic song ever made. Also, I like Here Is a House, but I never liked that they put the chorus at the start of the song for some reason. Martin Gore singing Here Is a House live is brilliant. All right, I'll forgive you. Music for the Masses, album ranked 3 out of 14. Behind the Wheel to Having to Hold, 2 best remix, Never Let Me Down split mix. Worst song, Sacred. Again, sacrilege. Best B-side, Agent Orange. For me, take Sacred out of the album. Never. And I always thought Strangelove could have been produced better. Then it would have been spot on. I love Sacred. Violator, album ranked number 1 out of 14. 2 best songs, World in My Eyes and Clean. Hard to pick 2, but Clean is the best for me anyways. Best remix, Oil Tank mix of World in My Eyes. So many excellent mixes. Worst song, Sweet as Perfection. Meh. I'm not going to argue with that. B-side, Sea of Sin. Sensoria mix. I was around 14 when I heard Personal Jesus on the radio. It blew my musical mind. It was the first DM single I bought. I went to HMV and bought the CD single of Personal Jesus. What I didn't know at the time was that I got the second CD that had the pump mix as the first track. It was amazing for me from that time onwards. I love the sounds and feel of this band. Songs of Faith and Devotion, album rank number 2 out of 14. Let's see. 2 best songs, I Feel You Rush. Best remix, Extended Zephyr, In Your Room. Worst song, In Your Room. Album version, Sacrilege again. Best B-side, My Joy. Okay, you made up for that. Album version. My thoughts. I don't know why, but sometimes I do skip In Your Room. Album version for some reason. I've always liked the Extended Zephyr mix more. I know a lot of fans would not agree. Yes, my hand's up. on that one, and Alan Wilder as well. When I first heard Condemnation, I thought, what are they doing? But over time, I'm loving this. I started loving this song. I do love the blues gospel feel of this album. Miss Alan so much in DM after this time, but hey, what can you do? Ultra, album ranked 5 out of 14. Best songs, Barrel of a Gun, Bottom Line. Best remix, the CJ Boland Ultra Sonar mix of Youthless. Worst song, Jazz Thieves. Not going to argue. Best B-side, Painkiller. I'm there with you. Bottom Line, this is one of the most underrated DM songs. Bottom Line is one of the most underrated DM songs. First album without Alan. Missed him, but the songs are gold. Well done. Well done, Tim, for the feel, Tim Simonon, of this album. Let's see. Exciter, album rank 11 out of 14. 2 best songs, Dream On, I Am You. Best remix, Free Love Flood Mix. Worst song, Breathe. I love Breathe. Flip-flop those two. Best B-side, Dirt. Nope. Could never get into that song. The only album by them I liked on a first listen, then disliked by its fourth listen. Most of the songs are not good, I think. Probably the album needed better production. Could have put 5 or more in worst songs section. Playing the Angel, album rank 8 out of 14. Macro, Nothing's Impossible, 2 best songs. Best remix, the Calderon Quail Damage Mix Q mix. Let's see. Worst song, Darkest Star. Not going to argue. Best B-side, Free. Free solid. I kind of put Martyr in that category as a B-side, even though it was released as a single. I love Martyr. After Exciter, I was worried, but this album is okay mostly. Nothing Impossible is one of the best they've ever done, as well, I think. Not Martin's, I know. I started missing the extended versions of songs like The Old Days. I do like some of the remixes. Songs of the Universe, album ranked 10 out of 14. 2 best songs. In Chains, don't like the first 1 minute of the digital fart noises and Corrupt. Yeah, that's one of those things, too, where I wish that they had split that up. Because I love In Chains, but I don't listen to it nearly as much just because it takes so long to get to the chorus. Best remix, Peace, Sander Van Doom mix, and the Peace Six Toes mix. Yeah, that's good. Peace, the album version, is crap, I think. Worst song, Little Soul. Best B-side, Oh Well, Blacklight Odyssey remix. Well, I do not hate this album as much as other fans did, but the Peace Six Toes mix is one of the best remixes of a song done. Also, the demo disc was good. Surrender and In Chains demos sung by Martin is brilliant. Wish he could sing Surrender on the B-side of Only When I Lose Myself instead of Dave. Also, Comeback was overproduced on the album. Much prefer the in-studio session. I agree. Also, whatever happened to Andrew Philpott? No idea. Delta Machine, album ranked 14 out of 14. 2 best songs, My Little Universe and Goodbye. Best remix, the Blawin remix of Heaven. Love Freemasons mix, but don't have. Worst songs, Soft Touch, Raw Nerve, and Soothe My Soul. Best B-side, Always. My thoughts? 75% crap. Why a lot of fans love this album, I don't know why. No more Ben Hillier after this album as well. Thank you. He used a curse word. I'm not saying that on the show. Spirit, album ranked 6 out of 14. Interesting. 2 best songs, Poor Man and Scum. Whew, we are way off the mark there. Best remix, Going Backwards, Chris Liebing Burn Slow mix. Worst song, You Move. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one either. Best B-side, no B-side. You're right. There wasn't any. This is their best work since Ultra, I think. Wow. You are an anomaly among Depeche Mode fans, my friend, but I appreciate your write-up. Perfect example of why this is why it's all subjective. I love it. Poor Man is one of their best. It's my least favorite track on that album. Why people don't like this album, I just don't understand. Production for this album is brilliant as well. I agree with that. I've listened to this album a lot and still love it. And then we get to Memento Mori. Did not put it on the list yet because for me it takes months or even years to really take it in over the DM journey. Kev F, that does not surprise me at all. But Always You, My Cosmos Is Mine are my favorite tunes on the album. I'm not a fan of Wagging Tongue and My Favorite Stranger. I don't think that will change. Let's see. What else do we got here? Should have been sung by Martin Gore. Studio version. Surrender, Condemnation, Going Backwards. Here is the House. Best non-album song, Shake the Disease, Get the Balance Right. Best Better remixes in the album versions. Sounds of the Universe. Okay. Best video, Wrong. Not a great lover of the song, but for me, it's the best video. Second best video is I Feel You. Thanks if you ever read this. No, man, thank you. That was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I waited to save that for this week's episode, because I did not pre-read that, and that was a good time. I hope everybody had as much fun hearing those opinions from Kev F as I did reading them. And that's not a dig, man. I appreciate the fact that you are a very, very distinct Depeche Mode fan. And yeah, boy, I really do appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. Hey, if you like science fiction and you're a reader, I hope you'll go check out my EMBARK science fiction space opera series. Treat yourself, a friend, or a family member with sci-fi. Set in the future where air and space flight culture has replaced car culture. Inspired in part by Depeche Mode, the life in the so-called space age, the world we live in life in general. Depeche Mode does play a large part in the underlying themes of the story, especially in Book 1. The main character himself is a massive Depeche Mode fan at a time in the future when the music of the 80s through the 2000s is nostalgic and popular among the characters of the story. Think of the 80s in Ready Player One is kind of what I duplicated in my EMBARK series and how they were fans of that time period. The stories feature references both indirect and direct to your favorite band while telling an exciting sci-fi space opera saga. You can check out the series on Amazon.com or mynerdworld.net. You can link to it from there. Available 7 books in all in ebook, Kindle Unlimited, hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. You can purchase paperbacks and hardcovers now. I've got them in my hand directly from me. So you can buy them direct. If you want to email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com or thejonjustice@gmail.com. Let me know which book in the series you want, and I will let you know how you can pay for it easily over email and online. You can buy them slightly cheaper, too, the paperback and the hardcovers, if you buy them directly from me. And if you want, I'll sign them for no extra charge, and I usually get them in the mail within a couple days, and you get them in a week, depending on where you are in the world. So if you like science fiction and you like it to be epic, filled with some romance and action, and a little bit of Depeche Mode, EMBARK is perfect for you. Written for adults, but great for ages 11 plus. Pick up EMBARK Book 1 today. Amazon.com or mynerdworld.net. All right, that's it. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, you're safe, and enjoying the mode. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.
Hello, this is Martin Gore from Depeche Mode.
Hi, this is